Ba 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 da bow. Ba 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 bow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night. It's 7:30. It's time for another episode of Ed Thompson and Other Disappointments. Woo! How are we doing? What's up to people in the live chat this evening? Hope you're staying warm. It's freezing. Freezing out there at the moment, isn't it? I'm not saying Hampshire is cold right now, but I came in the back garden on my way in here, and there was like 2 penguins and a fucking polar bear out there. I walked in that guy. I was like, whoa. Oh, okay. All right, fellas. I don't know which one of us was more shocked to see the other one. I was like, okay, so we're there now, aren't we? Polar bears and penguins have moved into Hampshire, and it's -4 climate. The worst thing is, I think I ruined their night. I think that's what happened. I interrupted their Friday night. You know, like they were just hanging out like you or I would in our ideal optimum temperature. They were just hanging out like we would at a barbecue. And then I came in through the gate like a gooseberry, just like barging in. And then they were like, oh, Jesus, this fucking idiot again. This buzzkill with his podcast. You know? I was like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. I get it, guys. I get it. You don't want to see me. You don't want to hear me. I understand. But like, how do you think I feel? Like, you don't want to listen to me or see me. I have to be me. I have to be me I have to see and hear this every day, lads. What's up to our newest joiners, to my Patreon cult? Thank you for joining, guys. And yes, I did say cult. Some content creators, some Patreon starters, content types, they do a buy me a coffee thing where you can placidly, sort of measuredly show your approval, can't you? Like you'll jump on, you'll say like, oh, thanks very much for all of the hard work you put in, Super Tansky. Here's £3 to show my appreciation, you might say. Another time you might say, hey, here's a super chat for £3.61, Graham Hughes of Politics Social. Keep up the good work, Graham, is what you might say. Give you a little, just a little motivational bump. It's a nice thing to do. Super chat, little tip, buy me a coffee. Very measured. I need full adulation. That's what I need. I need commitment. So yes, I am starting a cult. It is called the Binfluencer Massive. My Binfluencer veterans. People, you might have heard me refer to us before. Because, an influencer, in case you've not heard me explain this before, it's been a while since I've talked about this. A binfluencer is different to an influencer, right? An influencer is someone who is, on Instagram. They're taking pictures of their food, aren't they? Usually, they're telling you to live your best life. It's inspo content, isn't it? They're showing you beautiful sunsets, perhaps, with inspirational quotes plastered across the picture. But a binfluencer is not that at all. It's just a binfluencer is someone who is scraping the muck off the rim of the public bin in the park, just showing you the muck of life and society and going, oh, look at this. It's awful, isn't it? Now sit and drink with me is the vibe of binfluencers. Binfluencing your mood into the doldrums in which I so comfortably reside myself. So, what's up to the newest cult members? I've got the names here. Chris Mack, John Dudman, Raddleman92, Barrington, Sarah Davies, LU2D Games, Gail Goels, Gail Goels, Ricardo G, Martin Gooding, and then Ian, Phil, Carl, and Phoebe Woby over on Patreon. Doff of the cap to all of you. Thank you very much for continuing to support. Just as I've been talking about super chats and, you know, tips and stuff, I've just got Tackleberry tipping me for £2 with a little thing. Keep up the mostly adequate work, Aid. Thank you. Thank you. That's really nice. Right. What should we talk about this week? Should we find something to talk about, guys? Should we try and reckon with the reckless? Shall we try to make light of the darkness? Make sense of the senseless. Put the world to rights over its many, many wrongs once more. The week started with talk of Prime Minister and recipient of the world's first 1.3 head-to-body ratio, Keir Starmer, suffering such a poll blow that the Mail on Sunday predicted that he would be out of office in a year. Not to be confused with Boris 5 Holidays Johnson, who had his out of office on for a year. But yes, that was the big story earlier on this week. The Mail on Sunday poll. Starmer is supposedly going to be out within the first 12 months, they say. And it sounded quite alarming, didn't it? The destabilisation of a relatively new government. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of Keir Starmer. You might have picked up on that recently. But even I was a little bit like, I mean, you know, a year? A year, guys. You know, are we really pushing him out already? Are we like, do we really need another prime minister, a different prime minister within only a year, lad? Like, is he the problem, really? Is Starmer the problem? Or could it be something else underlying? Do we think? Like, sometimes I think British politics is like, it's like a really shit noughties boy band group, you know? That's what it's like to me, you know? And we're all just the manager, the Svengali manager in the dance rehearsal studio, giving them pointers. Like, the boy band is shit. It's just the whole thing, the whole product is terrible. They're objectively shit. You know, they can't do harmonies. The songs are atrocious. They can't dance in time with each other. And then the manager is like us, like the newspapers and everyone and the voters. The manager's just like, all right, why don't we try it again, but with Marky up front, you know? And then that doesn't work. Then they try it a different way. No, I don't think that works either. No, try it again now, but with Paulie on lead vocals. You know, they just keep switching around. How many times are we going to switch out the front man before somebody takes this manager to the side and then goes, yeah, the whole group, the music video, the music itself, the album, all of it is horrific. It's all bad. And then, you know, like the manager would just be like, oh, no. I'm sure if we find the right face, just to sell it, then it'll all come together. You know, the record company people come in, they're like, no, we got the marketing team to, like, sort of, you know, focus group it, the whole product. We put it around focus groups for you. Oh, and what did they say? Well, you know, we played them the single, we showed them the video, they listened to a bit of the album, and, you know, then they had to tick a box as to whether they would rather hear this than take that, or they would rather hear this than the Sugar Babes, you know, box ticking, sort of focus group. And which one did they tick? Well, they said that they would rather listen to the death rattle of their firstborn sons as they writhe in agony than experience 1 second more of whatever the fuck this was supposed to be. They hate it. The whole thing is shit. Shut it down. You know? This music isn't, you know, music anymore. This is unsolicited, unrequited ear rape is what this is. Whoever's the front man, it's all terrible. Like, it's like that. It's like that with politics now. You know? Everything's awful, but nobody's looking at the reasons why, the underlying reasons why. Like, I remember when Johnson, do you remember when Boris Johnson was first getting kicked out? What was that, like 3 years ago now? And they switched him out for Truss. And everyone in like the Mail, the Express, the Sun, everyone's like, oh, let's see if this bitch has got any bright ideas. Let's see if she can fix the country. Everyone's like, can she? Nope. Almost immediately. Was it 48 days, 49 days in office? The market's fucking prolapse in real time because there's no solutions there. And then what happens? You got the same problems, the same underlying fiscal challenges remaining. Then these same newspapers are like, oh, let's see if this nice little Hindu fella can fix it all. Oh, can he? Nope. Also nope. You know, the housing crisis, the cost of living crisis, the national debt just carry on, don't they? Just carry the fuck on. And now it's a Labour government. You know, we thought we'd left that chaos behind to some extent, didn't we? But no. You know, same newspapers, same frothing madness. None of them focusing on those underlying issues that flare up constantly with every other leader or whatever party is in power. We're like, hey, you know, there's a massive sovereign debt crisis just bubbling up week after week. And what's the solution? Quick, change the leader. He's going to be out in 1 year. He's going to be out in his first 12 months because he doesn't have what it takes. It's like, oh, God. Again? Really? You know, you can't solve all your problems by just switching out the face, switching out the front man. You're not Van Halen, lads. But still, you know, problem over here, switch out the leader. Problem over there, we need an election. You know? Like what we need is competence. That's what we need. What we need is credibility. What we need is care. What we're getting is a carousel, isn't it? That's what we're getting. Just this endless carousel of new faces and people pretending that they have the solutions to just last long enough until they can come out, get a book deal and go on the speaking circuit. So yes, anyway, the Mail said that Starmer will be out in a year off the back of their own poll. Until mere hours later, eagle-eyed internet sleuths noticed that their own poll showed quite the opposite. It was really weird. It was like they put this poll thing, this headline, that he's going to be out in the first 12 months. So says their poll. But like, I mean, I don't expect everyone to read the substance of everything. And I certainly think it's a bit of a stretch to, you know, expect the poppy waving flag fuckers, you know. I know that substance isn't necessarily the drug of choice for half of the right wing of Fleet Street, but I would expect you at the bare minimum, Mail on Sunday, I would expect you to at least read the contents of your own poll, right? The substance, the maths behind your own poll. Like, is print journalism in such a state now? You know, is it so hard to get people to read print journalism that not even the commissioning journalists of a poll at the Mail on Sunday, not even they will read that shit? Is it that hard? Because this poll, it showed, yeah, precisely the opposite. Like it said, you know, 30% of people think that he could be out in the first year. But then it said 20% of people don't think he will be out in the first year. And then there's an extra 20% who said, I don't know. And then there's another 25% on top of that who say he might be out early, but maybe it's longer than a year. So if you add all of those together, it's like, it's not the... Do you know what I mean? It's not what you're saying it is. It's disingenuous. It's weird. Please read your own polls, lads. Tuesday. What happened on Tuesday, guys? Tuesday, we were greeting the latest bunch of fleeting Wes Streeting beatings on the National Health Service. 2.5 million patients are going to be sent to private hospitals, I guess to huge expense, rather than the Treasury investing in the health service to expand capacity. Several hospitals this week were so over capacity from winter flu, COVID, norovirus, that they cancelled loads of other shit as well. And they sent loads of patients home to try to grapple with the deluge of new A&E patients. There's a load of hospitals that are, classed as like critical now. They're just, incredible conditions, war zone-like conditions out there. Will Wes Streeting solve the underlying issues in the NHS, Reform it where necessary? Allocate funding so it grows in capacity with the population? Rather than this endless race to the bottom where the population grows, but year on year, governments are forced to make efficiencies. Do you think he'll solve the underlying problems? Do you think he'll get more funding? Do you think No, he's not going to do any of that, is he? Because the bond markets are fucked, guys. Don't know if you read about that. That was another big story this week. There's no money for anything because the bond markets, the gilt markets are fucked. Borrowing has now surpassed the cost after the Trust Kwartang shit. Which means in order to meet interest payments on the colossal national debt, Rachel Reeves is going to have to raise taxes further and mercilessly slash public services. Probably both of those things concurrently. Prepare yourselves. Which means if this is a conversation about how to adequately fund the NHS so it can avoid critical status at a succession of England and Wales hospitals, that conversation is more likely to end up back at the carousel than at cash, lads. So yeah, prepare yourselves for many, many calls of like, yeah, you've got to get rid of Streeting. You've got to get rid of him because he's failed to fix everything. Eject him. Eject him from his position as health secretary because he didn't fix the underlying problems. Kick him out. All right, sir. Who's up next? Let's put Marky up front again. Let's get Paulie up front. See if they can do any better. What else has been going on, guys? What else is happening out there? Have I lost internet? Where's my internet gone? Fucking hell. There we go. Is that better? Can somebody just drop me a thing in the chat to let me know that you can see me still? Because I seem to have froze a little bit there. I'll just take a little sip. Little sip of my orange squash, my tipple tonight. Okay, good. Jolly good. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jim. Where did I get to? Oh, right. Yes. The Los Angeles fires. That's been quite something this week. The Los Angeles wildfires. I don't know if you've seen the footage, but it really is like transporting yourself into the depths of hell, isn't it? All those flames and collapsing structures. Presumably just sacking and replacing the fire marshal wouldn't solve the underlying issues. So it's good that they haven't done that, I suppose. It's good that they haven't done that. That would be silly, wouldn't it? Lots of celebrities' homes have been torched. People like Billy Crystal, Ricky Lake, Paris Hilton, Anthony Hopkins, Eugene Levy, James Woods. His home is gone too. And I feel bad for them. Because honestly, like, regardless of how much money you have, you know, how powerful you've become in Hollywood or whatever, like, to lose your home is a huge mindfuck, I imagine. It must be hugely traumatizing. Absolutely devastating, in fact. I mean, it is a tragedy of such proportion. I honestly think that a Hollywood celebrity sing-along video might be in order sometimes. So it's that serious. Imagine there's no heaven. You know? Remember that shit? In the pandemic, in the Panny D. It's easy if you try. Sung into my phone as a TikTok. Make everybody feel better. I think that's what we should do. I think broke people should sing John Lennon's Imagine There's No Heaven to the people of Pacific Palisades right now. I think that'd make them feel better. I think that's, you know. Or, you know, conversely, I give it a few days until all of these same celebrities, these fucking billionaires and millionaires, I give it a few days until they do a We Are the World to raise money for their own houses. I think that's, you know, I would not rule that out. That's how ridiculous life has become and popular culture has become. These people they're that shameless. They truly think this is the biggest thing in the world, which it is. It is a big story. But it's not like there's other people who are still worse off, I promise you, with less income earning potential to make it better. We are the world. We are the children. Like, I'm sorry if that sounds uncaring, you know. I genuinely do feel bad for people when they lose their homes, obviously, you know. If you don't, then you're a sociopath, probably. But when it is when it's a person with a net worth of $50 million who gets paid another $7 million every time they appear in something, and they're complaining because they have to spend a few weeks in the Beverly Palms Hotel, my sympathy is in short supply. Okay, I feel bad, but then I don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sad-ish is how I'd categorize it. It's sad. It is sad. Ish, right? And if you think I'm taking the piss, by the way, about the We Are the World thing, you know, where have you been? Where have you been, people? Like last month, we had the entire UK news ecosystem wanking itself limp over the plight of millionaire landowners here. That was happening. All of Fleet Street lobbying on behalf of millionaire landowners and the top 5% wealthy families in the UK who might fall into scope of some inheritance tax. Won't somebody please think of the Millionaire Land Bank inheritance tax? Private school people, please think of them, guys. Somehow they will make this about you. The millionaire Malibu movie stars will somehow make this a thing that you should feel bad about for them. For the occupants of the 90210 postcode. And you'll fall for it. It'll be conditioned. It'll be spoon-fed to you. IV'd into your eyeballs until you're like, oh, they are. Do you know what? They have had a rough time of it. Yeah, I'll give them $25. Yeah, it's the least I can do. I did enjoy When Harry Met Sally. Donate now. Imagine there's no heaven. 1-800. Rebuild Paris Hilton's home for it. But there are literally houses leveled in Gaza with bodies strewn all around them. But you are about to see a telethon raise triple the amount that was ever raised for Gaza just to raise some money for Billy Crystal's conservatory. I promise you. Just wait. It's going to happen. This is where we are now. They're going to divert, like, emergency presidential funding in a way that will make survivors of Katrina fucking weep. That is what's going to happen. Biden's going to hold fire on diverting any, like, humanitarian aid to Gaza because, I don't want to piss off Netanyahu. All of that money's going to go to LA, to the richest fucking state in the US, I think. I don't know. This story, these wildfires, they're definitely going to be, like, historians are going to look back and they're going to think that these LA wildfires, these Malibu Pacific Palisades wildfires are going to be like the missing white woman of the natural disasters, is what this is going to be. It's the missing white woman. If she's not white, or if it's a man, nobody gives a shit. If it's a white blonde woman with blue eyes, oh my God, we have to find her. It's the missing white woman of natural disasters. Just wait. Just wait. Gaza what? Where's Gaza? I don't know. What is Gaza? Who gives a shit about that? Paris's infinity pool needs rebuilding, guys. God bless her. Get CNN down here. I mean, look, it's incredible devastation, isn't it? It is truly fucking terrible. And I do feel bad for anybody, as I say, anybody who's lost their home. It must be absolutely horrific. But you made it out alive, okay? And you have the earning potential to completely repair your situation within 6 months. It's like, even if you don't have insurance, your life is probably going to be okay. And the rest of you, I don't think any of you have any understanding for how many Hollywood celebrities are about to come out of retirement. Guys, I don't think any of you are prepared or have any understanding for how many terrible returns to the silver screen and ventures into box sets on Netflix we're about to see from the stars of yesteryear. Before they were retired, they were out the game. They didn't give a shit. They made their money in the 80s, the 90s. 2025, though. 2025 is going to be the year of the buddy cop. Returning stars like Billy Crystal and Steve Guttenberg, with a supporting cast of Anthony Hopkins and James Woods. Guys. Lots of people coming out of retirement over the next few months. James Woods has been a favourite of mine, by the way. Don't know if you've caught up on any of his reactions and commentary over these wildfires. He's an old school Republican, right? He's a conservative, quite frenetic, quite vocal. And even as his house was engulfed in flames, still clung on to the idea that this isn't climate change. It's not. It's totally not. It's not. Why is everybody saying it's climate change? It's not. It's just la la la. More wildfires in the last 15 years than the last 200 combined, is what they're saying. Higher Earth surface temperatures now than we've ever had before. This last year is the hottest on record for the global surface temperature. Erratic winds in California that they've never previously had to deal with this sort of ferocity, this force. And James Woods, like all of this evidence, all of this statistical, scientific evidence, James Wood is just like, it's not climate change, though. This is what he said. I've got what he said here. He says, this fire is not from climate change, you ignorant asshole. It's like replying back. He's clapping back to somebody on Twitter. This fire is not from climate change, you ignorant asshole. It's because liberal idiots like you elect liberal idiots like Gavin Newsom. I quite like Gavin Newsom. Let me just throw that out there. And Karen Bates. One doesn't understand the first thing about fire management and the other can't fill the water reservoirs, which is just levels deep stupidity. It should win an award. It should win an award. And the award should be like a little golden statuette of fucking, I don't know, Who's a really ignorant climate change denier? Who's like a hilariously, someone that's denied climate change and then it's come and bit them on the arse? Somebody like, maybe one of these guys that owns a mansion in Florida, and he's like a MAGA wearing, red cap Republican in Florida, buys himself a nice beach house, and the beach house gets fucking flooded by the worst floods in 100 years. Somebody like that. They should take a picture of him, change it into a sculpture, and that should be the statuette that James Woods wins with this levels deep stupidity. Like, why does he think that the reservoirs haven't been filled? Why does he... Can you imagine? Can you riddle me that, Batman? Why might the reservoirs be running low on water, James? Oh, it's a thinker, isn't it? Does he think, water is in short supply because, the governor just hasn't shown up with his thousands of buckets of water? Is that how he thinks that's how reservoirs are filled up with, because this guy doesn't know how to fill a reservoir properly, right? Okay. You ignorant asshole. Or might it be, dear James Woods, might it be the climate, affecting weather systems, raining less, more drought, more extreme weathers, no? Could it be that, do we think? It's along the same... I'll tell you what it's like, right? Sometimes you come across... Oh, shit, my other camera's died. Hold on a sec. Here we go. That's better. Go back to the chat, shall we? It's like when you hang out in the UK, and like we don't have, wildfires in the same way that they do in California. But sometimes you'll come across people in the UK when we get our own extreme weather. And, we'll have like a 38 or 39 degrees Celsius day here in the UK. And somebody will be like, oh, my God, this is insane heat, isn't it? This is too much. They say it's 39 degrees Celsius today. They say that it comes from climate change. And then, the person that you're talking to is like, no, you idiot. It's from the sun. It's like... It's that same... That is James Woods' levels of stupidity. That is essentially what he's saying. The level of scientific understanding that we're dealing with here. Even as his own house is burning. But yeah, I don't know. What the fuck do I know? Like, maybe you should just switch out Gavin Newsom. Maybe that'll solve the underlying problems. He's clearly the face of this. Just switch out Newsom. Put a different face up front. That will definitely fix the underlying issues and challenges, just like it did with the Sugar Babes. Just like it did when they got Heidi. Try it again, but with Marky up front. It might work. This is what I say, right? This is what I mean, rather, when I say that I'm sick of these fucking fantasists. If you caught the paper review this morning, you'll be aware of this fatigue that I'm suffering from now. I'm just so fucking over fantasists living in their own worlds. The pandemic was a hoax. Biden stole the election. Vaccines are 5G mind control devices. There's two-tier policing. Climate change is fake, but QAnon is real. You know the kind of people I'm talking about. Like, please, can we just round up all of these recreationally terrified lunatics once and for all? And just like, maybe, do you know what? Maybe we should let Trump take Greenland, right? And just hear me out, right? Maybe we let him take Greenland. And what we do is we just leave a breadcrumb trail of Coors Light and Kid Rock albums, bunting and poppies, all the way up to Greenland. And then once they go inside, you just close the fucking gate. Just close it. And then let the rest of us get back to common sense and logic. Let the grown-ups just get back to fixing everything. Can we do that, please? Who's with me? You know, we'll have some poor fucking sad sack buyer's remorse motherfucker trying to fight his way out again, trying to get back out the gate, be climbing over Andrew Tate, Farage and Musk, over Peter Thiel, under Don Jr. and around Russell Brand, around Tucker Carlson, over Isabel Oakeshott and the fucking cunts from Trigonometry. And he gets back up to the gate and he's like, can I come back out? Can I come back? I think I left my phone in the cafe over there. Can I just come back out, please? I'll be like, no. You don't want to come out here, mate. You know, there's two-tier police just around the corner over there. You'd be better off. You're safer in here. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for warning me. Turns around, goes back in. Should we do a quick weird news story? Have we got time for a weird one? How's everyone in the chat doing? Zero says birds aren't real. Have you seen that documentary? It's like a piss take of all the fake news things. There was another one as well. Birds aren't real. I'm sure there was another one. Maybe somebody in the chat can remind me. Let's do a quick weird news story. I think we got time. Excuse me. Let me just zoom out. Just a moment. I'm not having much luck with the old technicals tonight. There we go. Zoom out a little bit. I charged up. I thought I charged up my my Posh camera up there, and it said green. Said it was fully charged. I was like, I don't know if I believe that. And then I sort of shuffled it around the way that you do to check that it's not like it says it's green, but then sometimes it flicks back to red. But it seemed okay. I was like, okay. And then I plugged it in and it was like all full bars. And I'm like, okay. But like within 10, 15 minutes, it was like going down to red. And I'm like, oh, fucking hell. So I'm down to one camera now. Apologies. And my internet dropped out. So that's not ideal either, is it? Right. Let's get on to a fun story, shall we, guys? So here's a fun one. You may have seen this earlier if you've been catching up with the news. Today. So the guy that sprayed the bullets at the DC Pizza Parlour, right? Do you remember that? Does everybody remember this? It was a few years ago. At the height of the Clinton-Trump 2016 campaigns, there was this internet conspiracy that the Democrats were running a paedophile ring out of a pizza parlour in Washington, D.C., all right, commonly known as Pizzagate, this conspiracy theory. And the idea was that NYPD over in New York had searched this guy, Anthony Weiner's emails. And it was a mix of that and Hillary Clinton's campaign guy, a guy called John Podesta, because he had his emails hacked and leaked by WikiLeaks. But basically, like all these weird fake news sites, users of 4chan, Reddit, another one called Subject Politics. They spread this idea that when they're talking about cheese and pizza delivery in the emails, it's actually code words for children and child trafficking or whatever. Like that was the idea behind the conspiracy theory. Like you look at the emails and when they're talking about pizzas, that's what they're referring to. It's code, right? So, because these got sent out and it was shared across Facebook and Russia had these fake, like American-sounding news clips produced, people started to believe it. And it's kind of wild because that's actually where the term fake news originally came from, before it was co-opted and then jigged and pushed back out to mean basically anything that Donald Trump doesn't like, right? This is where it originally came from, was fake news. Fake Russian, American-sounding news clips. So, and I really mean that. Like, they were like recorded in a studio with decent camera equipment, great sound. It looked like a genuine news studio, but it would be some channel that you'd never heard of. News 24 USA.com. There's been a development in the Pizzagate story. Hillary Clinton was raided this morning by NYPD and FBI agent, like stuff like that. And people are like, oh my God, this is real. Now, since all of that kicked off, that story has been thoroughly discredited time and again. There never was a paedophile sex ring that was being run by the Clintons or the Democrat Party, the people that supported the conspiracy theory. Weirdly, they don't seem to have a problem with an actual child sex trafficking guy like Epstein being best friends with their boy Trump for a decade. This is documented. They don't really seem to have a problem with that. But anyway, at the height of this story, the conspiracy theory, people like this guy believed it. His name was Edgar Madison Welch. You might have seen this earlier, as I say. And he was the guy that ran into the pizza parlor that he thought was a paedophile Democrat Party conspiracy Clintons hangout. He ran in there and he sprayed the place with bullets, guys. What a hero. He went in there to save those kids. Like a modern day Indiana Jones, tearing into the temple and freeing all those child slaves. And anyway, now today, earlier this morning, it's turned out he's just been shot dead by North Carolina police. So that's that's weird, isn't it? That's kind of strange. It says, let me just read this to you. Where are we? A man who opened fire at a pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C. has been shot dead by police during a traffic stop 9 years after the incident made the Pizzagate conspiracy theory famous. Edgar Madison Welch made headlines in 2016 when he drove from North Carolina to pursue bogus claims that the Comet Ping Pong restaurant was the nexus of a child sex ring linked to Hillary Clinton's inner circle. So he believed it, hook, line, and sinker. He ran in there with his rifle. He shot the place up. Fortunately, nobody was killed. Nobody was even really harmed. He just ran in there shooting, right? And now, 9 years later, he's been shot dead by North Carolina police. And firstly, when I read a story like this, right, the first thing that I think is like, there's going to be some QAnon lunatic out there now who's going to be like, you see, he got too close. That's another one murdered in revenge by the Clintons. Like, that's going to happen, isn't it? You know that QAnon guy with the horns? He's going to be on YouTube saying that this was, a staggered revenge plan. He got too close. He found out something. Add another one to the Clinton death toll. It's going to happen. So that's the first thing that I think. The second is, the guy, Edgar Welch. He gave an interview with the New York Times a few years ago when he was still in jail for the pizza shootout. They tracked him down. And they gave him an interview. They just want to know, like, why did you do what you did? That's a weird thing to do. Why did you run into the pizza parlor and start shooting people? And he was like, I just wanted to do something good. I just went about it the wrong way. Which I thought was interesting. Like, imagine thinking that the way that you're going to go out is in a hail of bullets, freeing child sex slaves. That's how you think you're going to go out, as some sort of celebrated hero, liberator of children. And actually how you end up going out is as a radicalized, jailed, and ultimately shot the fuck up by traffic cops. 100% unnecessarily. Like, that is such a different ending to the one I think he was going for. They're two very different endings. Like, it's the difference between going out as a martyr, isn't it? As a liberator of the kids. And basically, almost literally going out as a man shouting at traffic in a country with the most impatient armed police in the world. Like, I wonder how many seconds it took them. How many seconds did it take them to go, oh, I can't be dealing with this fucking bullshit? You know? Did he even make it to the second sentence that he was shouting at traffic? It's what I want to know. It says, Welch, now 36, died from his wounds caused by 2 police officers who fired at him after he pulled out a handgun during a traffic stop in Kannapolis, North Carolina, on the 4th of January. Oh, okay, so it's a week ago. Pulled out a handgun at a traffic stop. In not like did he think there was kids in the bollards on the traffic? Like what was the strategy here? And this happened on the 4th of January. So it's just like a few days ago. Like it took that long for the leak of it to get out, didn't it? It took that. It's all part of the conspiracy. We needed to give the Clintons time to construct and establish their alibi. I get it. I understand what's happening here. In a statement, police said there was a warrant out for his arrest on a probation violation, and officers pulled him over after recognizing his vehicle. Okay, so, look, guys, I know this sounds sad, and it is sad. It is. I'm sure this guy had a family, and if not kids and a wife, then, you know, probably a mother and a sibling or whatever. And they're probably mourning the loss of him right now. And I thought, you know, that's probably tough, isn't it? To live in a country where a guy with a criminal record can access a gun so easily, and, you know, where police seem to shoot to kill on a traffic violation. You know, a literal traffic stop can result in the loss of a life, you know? That sort of country is kind of weird. But I think it's important to remember that none of that actually needs fixing. None of that should be considered in terms of ensuring that any of this shit never happens again. You know, the original tip, pow, that he left at the pizza parlour, the lack of mental health care for someone so clearly radicalised and maniacal, the free availability of these death machines, the trigger-happy training of the police officers, none of that matters. Guys, we have just got to straight up James Woods this. That's what we got to do. That will solve this. It's not the mental health or the gun control. It's the bullet, guys. It's just a bullet. It's the bullet that killed him. You see? It's a shame. It's a shame there was no good guys with guns there to prevent this, isn't it? You know? Or maybe he could have hung around another few months and we could have gated him in Greenland too, you know, couldn't we? We could have led this motherfucker up to Magaland up there with fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Liz Truss and the hornhead guy. He would have been safe. He would have been happy, right? Guys, that's it. That's it for the main podcast section. I'm going to stick around for a lock-in. Now, if you're not familiar with the lock-in, on a Friday night, we do the main podcast 7:30 to about 8:30, and then we stick on for a little bit, and you can throw me some questions, a little bit of Q&A, and we are going to freestyle it. But if you're listening to this on Spotify, or on Apple Podcast, or catching up with it later on YouTube, then that's it for this one. Catch up with you all next time. Peace. Right, guys. I guess I can stop recording now. There we go. You think Trump offed him, Diz? Damn. Shall I go down to the lock-in music? Hold on. Here we go. Let's break it down. All right. How are we doing? Shall I move my camera back over here? This one? I'll move it over here. Hold on. Oh. God damn it. Oh, shit. Shit on my face. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? So, how are we doing, guys? What's going on? Zero says, and the sex music. Is the lighting in Aid's shed a bit strip lightish? Yes, it is. It is strip lights, these. I had an extra set of them. And I thought, you know what? I've seen people with like fairy lights sort of thing. And I thought I'd wrap it around here. How are you guys doing in the chat? Richard Marston says, God, gratuitous crotch shot. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yes. Oh, thank you very much to... there was another... Steve Martin says, cracking show. Thanks, Aid. Thank you, man. Thank you for tuning in. Super appreciative to everyone for tuning in. I can't scroll back all the way to the top. That's a bit fucking annoying, isn't it? Somebody else gave I think, was it Richard Marsden? Did you drop a super chat in earlier? Maybe I can filter it up here, can I? Oh, there we go. Jim Speak it was. Let me get the 20-foot extension for my barge pole, he says. Tackleberry, keep up the mostly adequate work. Thank you. Richard Marsden, just for the Rose joke this morning. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. We got 289 views tonight. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let me just go back to so I can see all the messages. The safe word is Fidelio, says Mojo Sabian. What's up, Mojo? Jim says, set all your YouTube membership tiers to £1, £1, and I'll give a tenner's worth of membership. There is, I've added a £1 membership tier, so you should be able to do that, because there's a few people who've joined the £1 tier. Like, it's called I'm just saying thanks, Aid, or something like that. So it should be there. If you want to. I'm not pressuring. You know, I'm very appreciative for anyone that tunes in or says thanks or whatever. Richard Grumpy says, cue the music. Oh yeah, bub. I like talking a little bit with the music on. It's nice, isn't it? I have considered, like, you know, when I do the main pod, should I have like the rock music playing in the background? But I don't know. It makes it a bit of a nightmare to edit then. Hats going on backwards with Gone Street, says Richard Marsden. Oh, hell yeah. I should really stop doing like American accents for everything. And when I turn it around like this, it's usually because I'm trying to like keep an eye on the camera to make sure, because it's got this sort of autofocus, auto-follow thing, and I just don't want it to mess up. I just want to keep an eye on it so I can see it properly. What's everyone up to this weekend? What am I doing? I am going to take my daughter swimming tomorrow. She hasn't done swimming since before Christmas, so we are super excited about that, actually. And then Sunday. What am I doing on Sunday, man? I don't actually have any plans for this weekend, really. It's not very exciting, is it? I was supposed to, like, originally, because a lot of the political content types are meeting up tomorrow in London. And I would obviously love to go to that, but I can't really get away from the kids, so and I don't want to drag the kids all the way up to London. It'd be like triple the expense to have a third of the good time. If that's not too disrespectful, it would just be like really like more stressful. I'd rather wait and then do it on a day when I can just sort of like kick back, chill out on Sunday, says Diz. Yeah, probably. Probably be editing like most of the weekend. I'll just do like little clips if I can find enough footage from this show that isn't like a little bit hampered by technical stuff. Jim Speak says the nearest tier to £5 is automatically selected as the non-negotiable gifted membership price. So if all tiers are just £1, people can gift a bunch of algorithmic engagement for a good price. I'm not sure I understand. Like, I thought last week somebody gifted like 5 £1 memberships, or something. I don't remember it being £5 ones, because there was a sudden influx of alerts. Maybe I could go on it now. Hold on, I'll check it. Do. Memberships gained the last 31 days. See your members. Here we go. Yeah, so there's 1, 2. Well, now, is there? It's difficult to see who joined as a £1 one and who joined as a £3 or £5 one. It's a bit distorted from my view. Sorry, that's not very helpful, is it? There's been a few people join the last week, so it's like there's about the same number of people who joined on like a proper tier versus the £1 one. So it's difficult for me to see which ones were gifted and which ones were not, and which ones signed up off their own accord. Anyway, Alex French says snuggling with the dog all weekend for me. That's nice. That sounds cozy. I really want to get a dog. I've been outvoted though. I don't think my girlfriend particularly wants one, and the house isn't really big enough for one, to be fair. My kids would like one if we got a puppy, if it was like a little one, but I veto that. I'm like, if you're going to get a dog, get a dog. If you're going to get a cat, but don't fuck around in between. Don't get yourself like a little terrier. You've probably got a terrier now, haven't you? Alex French. My dad's got a terrier, and it is lovely, but I want a golden retriever or a Alsatian. Tackleberry says, I concur. You can only gift £5 memberships. That's a bit shit. If they were all £1, I'd gift 5 instead of getting the 1 times 5 tier. So how do I... So I'm up for making the change if there's some way that I can do it. So how do I do that? Do I change the default tier? Is that what you're saying? I change the preferred tier to £1. Let me know if that's what I'm supposed to do. I'll have a quick look. I'll see if I can do it. Do. All your YouTube membership tiers to £1. £1. Is just make one tier, make it £1. But then if I make it one tier, then all the other people who are on the other tiers will then all revert down to one tier, to £1. Which, without sounding like I'm desperately trying to keep this profitable at the moment, and I'm right at tax return time, so I don't really want to like cut the little income that it does generate down to like nothing, basically. I hope that doesn't sound greedy or unreasonable. And also, do you know what? It's not on you to gift people. It's on me to promote it and to try to get the word out there and be as outrageous as I need to be to get people interested, I suppose. Richard Grumpy Git says 2-tier memberships. Yeah. What do we think is going to happen with Labour? Here's a question for you guys in the chat. What do we honestly think is going to happen with Labour? Are you guys confident that they're going to turn the ship around, that they're going to get to growth and therefore avoid trashing public services and jacking up taxes more? Are you in any way confident that they are going to be able to do that? Or are you sort of in my mindset where I'm like, I just don't see how they're going to do this, and so I think then they'll get voted out, and then I think we'll be back to Tories. Mojo says nothing. They're far too careful. Yeah. Diz says, sadly, no. Richard Marsden says, yeah, I believe they will have to look at the single market and eat the rich, otherwise done. I think it's... sorry, excuse me. I think it's going to be an interesting 6 months or so, because they're going to catch the blame for literally everything now. They've got their hands on the levers of power. There's no amount of obfuscation. Like, the Tories to some extent can obfuscate because they've got the weight of the media behind them. They can say, oh, it's not our fault, it's this, it's global factors, it's Putin's invasion of Ukraine, it's it was this, it was the pandemic, and the Express and the Mail and the Sun, who shape public opinion, they just take it. They just go, oh yeah, okay. And so they survive the accountability checks. Labour have no such advantage. So when they try to obfuscate and dodge and duck criticism, it just doesn't work. And so then the polling starts to go down, which is sort of what we're seeing now. And I think it will just continue to go down and down and down. And eventually, probably, I mean, I was joking about this earlier, eventually somebody will start putting in like letters to the equivalent of the 1922 committee. I know it's not the same with Labour, but like somebody will start a campaign to oust Keir Starmer. They'll just say he doesn't have the leadership, doesn't have the ideas. We need bold vision, blah, blah, blah. But whoever they get in place, like for the exact same reasons as I put out before and on a TikTok this afternoon, they're also going to be doomed to the same set of circumstances. The only way out of this is to join the single market and hope that that sparks growth. Or something that I haven't spoken about, I don't think, certainly not recently, is the prospect of creating a digital currency, like a digital pound. And then you start to use that as a means of funding public services and issuing bonds and the rest of it. And then basically what you do is you slowly wind down and write off old bonds. So people who invested in old bonds would lose their money, but it wouldn't necessarily impact sterling or the new bond prices because they're no longer sort of coupled. They're not connected. So people would, I mean, I guess the digital currency that they then issued them in would take a hit. People would lose confidence because they would go, well, what's to stop you from writing off this one now? Like the new version. But that could be a route. Maybe that's why Donald Trump is so keen on crypto and digital currency all of a sudden. But when I spoke to my friend who's a financier, he's an ex-hedge fund guy, he was like, well, where this will end up eventually is the UK will default on its sovereign debt, and something will happen. Something will have to give. They'll either go to the IMF, who will agree to bail them out to some extent, or they will have to construct some sort of digital currency to take the pressure off. So I wonder when that's going to happen. Like, I don't know if any of you guys follow Gary's Economics, but he comes out with some really interesting stuff about this, where he's like, Labour will continue the same economic orthodoxy and Labour will fail. Like their ability to get a hold of the economy and to get growth to start paying down the national debt it's just non-existent. It's not going to happen, and people will get more and more desperate until eventually they will be punished for it at the ballot box. And he was saying something on yesterday's video or the day before. He's saying how then what happens is, right-wing governments come in because everyone's desperate. They want, Labour are hopeless, so let's get the right-wingers in. And the right-wingers come in and they say, oh, it's the immigrants, it's the asylum seekers. But then everything still gets shitter, right? Because the right-wingers don't have any solutions for the problems either. It's not like it's not like conservatives come in and they're like, oh yeah, well, let's fix the economy. They've caused as much of the problems as anybody else. So they also don't have solutions. But what they do have is scapegoats. And I don't know if he put it quite as brutally as I'm putting it now. But he was saying the worry is that as right-wing governments come in, they start off blaming, economic migrants like, EU, freedom of movement types. Then they'll start blaming international students. Then they start blaming international migrants, asylum seekers. And it's never enough because things just don't get any better. They need to keep finding new scapegoats. Trans people, gay people, people with ginger hair. It will just get worse and worse and harder and more brutal. And, history gives us quite a frightening answer of where that sort of politics can lead. Not to get too dark on you this evening. Left all the jokes in the main section, didn't we? The few of them that there were. Zero says, buy Bitcoin. I think I've told my Bitcoin story on here before. I had my fingers burnt. So I've abandoned Bitcoin. I just buy gold now. Billy Kershaw says, Aid, dog needs to go out. Good. That's fine. That's fine, Billy. Always a pleasure to have you on, man. Alex French says, I'm ginger and gay and my sister is bisexual, so we're fucked. Yeah. I mean, I'm a white guy. And I'm straight and I've got 2 kids and I live with my girlfriend. So I guess I'm sort of back of the queue. I'm reasonably safe. The only problem I have that doesn't work to my favour is I'm quite infamously a dissident. They would just search YouTube for left-leaning creators who might be troublemakers in the future, and then they'll come and give me a knock on the door and detain me. Is this you? Looks like you've made about 13 videos, and in each of them you've referred to the Tories as livestock fuckers. Oh yeah, that was me. Right, okay. Can you come with us, sir? I'll be like, no, I was just joking. It was just satire. Right, okay, satire's illegal. Retrospectively illegal. Gold is always a safe investment, says Zero. Well, that's my thinking. Is, in a time where cash is becoming increasingly worthless, and poor people are losing their spending power, then you need to go to assets, right? And I don't know enough about stocks and shares, really, so I'll just go with precious metals. So gold, silver. Some people buy Bitcoin. It has increased a lot in value. I'm just a bit nervy because of what it did last time, so I shall leave crypto for the time being. Also, it's not like there's been many inspiring stories about crypto investment over the last couple of years. I've heard more stories about crypto scams than I have about success stories or the advancement of the crypto sector. But then, I don't know. I'm not particularly, involved in it. So, Mojo says, just pretend to be a Russian. Zero says, I just think Bitcoin is going to shoot up in the next 6 months, but I am guessing. Well, they say that the US government is going to start stashing it, don't they? The US government's going to try to invest, is it 10 billion or 20 billion? Quite a substantial amount of money. Which itself is enough. If they just suddenly try to comb that amount of Bitcoin, the demand that it's going to push on the rest of the Bitcoin, probably quite substantial. Nick Roberts says, water will be the currency. Well, it kind of it's creeping up, right? Invest in a water company and then at least you'll have water. At least then you can make some money out of the bills being endlessly jacked up. At least you'll be okay. Mojo says, I invested in Hollywood real estate. Bugger. Yeah, that would be... I mean, I wonder who has bought... that'll be the knock-on news story, won't it? Will be the people who just foreclosed on a house. They just did the paperwork 2 weeks ago, bought the house, and within 2 weeks, the whole thing is gone, and it was uninsurable, or they hadn't got round to getting the insurance sorted yet. Because there's a big thing, isn't there, going around at the moment, that some of the insurers, thanks to the wildfires of the last 5-10 years, some of the insurers are just we can't insure these properties. We can't guarantee that you will be safe in these properties, so we are out. And I imagine there's going to be some very rich, very unhappy people who just didn't get around to sorting their insurance out. But you know what? I was sort of half macabre, darkly joking about this earlier. I was like, you know, somebody's going to make an absolute killing on that land grab. Somebody's just going to look at all of those plots, all of that real estate, and they're going to go, Jesus Christ, I could get this at a bargain basement price. I could redevelop the whole thing. I could make an absolute killing, and I didn't even need to pretend that Hamas were there. That's the level of beachfront property redevelopment that we're going to be talking about here. Let me just read some more comments here. First time watcher, not commenting, normally surrounded by kids, now in the pub, says Nick Roberts. Hey man, how you doing, Nick? Hope you're good. Hope everybody's good this evening. I sort of feel like certainly in the last week, like we've kind of turned a dystopian corner. And I know I sort of joke a lot about, you know, the end of days and its last drinks, last orders on the bar of the Titanic and nuclear war and climate change and stuff. But it really does feel like in the last week, we've turned this corner where, you know, Trump is about to retake power. He's going to renege on all of the international climate deals. He's breaking international law by doing that, but he'll still do it. I mean, we've seen this week, like, how the US behave when international law does not sit in their favor. Like with the International Criminal Court, the ICC, issuing that arrest warrant for Netanyahu. In response to that, the US government have put sanctions on anyone who is affiliated or working with or for the International Criminal Court. So they're like, look, if you dare to put an arrest warrant out for Benjamin Netanyahu, we will then, if you have bank accounts in the United States, we're going to freeze those bank accounts. We're going to take your assets. Like, that's how they behave with international law. So I don't have any hope whatsoever that Donald Trump would adhere to his climate responsibilities. So Trump's about to come back in. The US will renege on all of that stuff. It will be drill, baby, drill. Loads of oil, loads of gas, loads of emissions. They may enter Greenland by force. They might attempt to come to some sort of arrangement to acquire it or absorb it. Then they'll drill there. There's loads of fossil fuels up there, isn't there? Gas and oil. And I just think, like, we're already teetering on this 1.5 degrees Celsius thing. Like, we were supposed to avoid this, and we're about to achieve it this last year. Like, it's that is now just done. We've got wildfires, we've got hurricanes, tornadoes, floods. The ice caps will melt, the floods will become real. Any attempt to report this, any attempt to actually convey truth and the severity and seriousness of what we're actually dealing with can be lied about, can just be dismissed as fake news. And the adversarial counterpoint, viewpoint from Team Trump, from Lawrence Fox, from the Tories or Reform will be prioritized and boosted and not challenged on platforms like X and Facebook and Instagram and so on. So it really does feel at the moment like the future looks incredibly bleak. And it wouldn't be so bad if the economy was going okay. And if you could sort of, you know, stay blissfully ignorant and go, well, you know, I'm sure that's happening somewhere, but we're okay, aren't we? You know, at least my kids can afford a house. At least there's good job prospects. At least blah, blah, blah. But artificial intelligence is about to wipe the floor. The economy is not going great. The housing crisis, the cost of living crisis, all of these things are absolute emergencies and none of them are getting addressed. It truly does feel like in the last week or two, like hope for me and for some of the people I associate with, like hope has completely left the building. Carl Stone says reasons to be cheerful, number 335. I mean, this is the content that you're here for. But doesn't it feel like it's not just me, is it? Like, it feels like we are sort of in this dim, very glib period now. And I think for a lot of people, they will be thinking, how do I actually escape Britain? How do I get out of the US? Where do I go? And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Where can you actually escape to? Not everyone can buy a little island off the coast of New Zealand and wait for this whole thing to crumble. So how do you escape it and have something to look forward to? That's the question for next week. How do we get the fuck out of here safely? How much does it cost to construct a bunker? How long till it's all over, Raid, says Peter Del Monte. And will you still be dressing up as Jesus to save us all? Oh, absolutely. Yes. I am your cult leader, ready, here and waiting with solutions to your... I've got the answers. It's all part of God's plan. Everything will make sense in the afterlife, etc. I watched a documentary a few years ago. I think I've spoken about it before. Called Collapse by Michael C. Ruppert. And he talks about it from an oil perspective, from peak oil's perspective, about the exhaustion of fossil fuels. And he basically predicts stuff that's sort of happened or is happening now, about how, you know, interest rates, debt, everything will climb as governments around the world struggle to react to the reality that things are getting scarcer and more expensive to pull out the ground. And ever since I saw that film, it completely changed the way that I looked at the world. I was like, everything's fucked. Everything's over. And I was already fairly nihilistic. But it's, yeah, it's definitely, in the last 5 years or so, it's really like, I'm like, wow, they're happening. Things are happening. Diz says the social contract is broken. We need a new system. Yeah, I mean, basically, eventually what will happen is, I think, is that people will get increasingly desperate. I mean, if you look at the bond market, right, at the moment, and the rates that we are now being expected to borrow at, and if you accept the reality that we don't have enough tax money to actually keep the country running, like we have to borrow, either to invest or just to keep things running, eventually they're going to have to make up that money in tax rises. And nothing's going to fix that dynamic, so tax rises will continue to go up and up and up and up. And eventually people will snap. People will just break. They will be like, I can't afford to fucking eat. My water's been cut off. My energy's been cut off. I'm freezing. My kids are starving. And people will just fucking flip out. And, you know, I joked a little bit about this last year about the riots, because it was like, it was hot weather. It was in the summer. And there was something else that was, and I was like, any minute now, these fucking riots are going to kick off. And like clockwork, the riots kicked off. And it will be similar to that. It will probably happen in the summer in the UK, because that is tradition. You know, in the UK, we like a good summer riot. But people will be desperate. They won't have the petrol in their car to get to work, to earn the money, or the money will be so highly taxed that they can't afford the food. And they will snap. And to begin with, it will just be like looting a Tesco. But eventually the anger will build up, and it will take institutions like police stations, television stations, news reporters will be invaded, and people will go on the TV and talk about why they're doing the thing that they're doing. If we're lucky, it will be as constrained and orderly as a sort of terror group taking control. So at least then there is a spokesman. At least then there's someone that you can negotiate with. But the fear is that it will be so chaotic that it will just be a mass fucking bloody riot, and people will lose their lives. They'll get crushed to death. They'll be looted. We're getting even darker now, aren't we? Sorry. But that is where I see things headed, because, and do you know what's wild is, like, I have intelligent friends who are perhaps maybe not as politically switched on as people that I hang out with, and probably you guys, if you continue to tune in. I have intelligent friends who are just like, oh my god, what is it with like middle-aged white men who endlessly go on about the end of the world? It's just enough with it, please. Like, in their minds, it's like it's just an obsession with middle-aged white guys that go on about it. But I'm always like, this is happening. This is happening in real time if you choose to see it, to pay attention to it. And I would rather be sort of paying attention to it and be aware of it and loosely preparing for it than be completely ignorant to it and naive and off in my own little bubble. Like, oh, that's weird that the interest rates have gone a bit higher, isn't it? That's strange. What's a bond, by the way? You know? And then in 3 years' time, the whole thing fucking implodes. They're like, why is this happening? This is strange. The funniest thing happened to me earlier, Aid. I went to Tesco and somebody hit me round the head and took the can of beans out of my hand that I was just about to buy. It's a funny old world, isn't it? Strange that these things keep happening. I've been burgled 5 times this month, Aid. Why is this happening? Never used to happen. What's that on my shoe? Says Billy Kershaw. On my shoe? Which shoe? Am I being dense or ditzy? Aid, dogs barking. Dogs barking? Your dog is barking. Crime is a poverty issue mostly. Yeah, it is. Climate change is going to kill millions. True and worrying. This is a thing. Like, doesn't it feel like we're at the end of the season? We're at the end of the box set season now, aren't we? You got climate change, you got Putin, you got, it's not another pandemic, but there's that new Chinese virus. There will be another pandemic, won't there? We'll run out of antibiotics, or antibiotics will stop working. Everyone will get sick and die. People will invade places, will run out of oil. Like, there's so many reasons why civilization as we know it will probably implode, probably end. Artificial intelligence will take over everything. It's not looking good, is it? Let's be realistic about this. It's not looking particularly peachy. Aid, why haven't you been to work? I've been to work. Can we not start the apocalypse right now, says Mojo Sabian. I'm wanting to buy another Mercedes. Oh, well, isn't that nice for you? You and your Malibu investments and your Mercedes, Mojo. Guys, I'm going to leave you on this very dark dystopian note this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you very much to you guys for the super chats, the super thanks, and so on earlier. Shall I quickly? I'll do the Patreon names at the end as well. Here we go. Thanks very much to Travel Malta, Darren W, Diana Patterson, sorry, Dave Lindop. Who else we got? Ashley Wilson, Christine Cash, Encore une fois, Margaret Abogai, Tracy Dubbs, Cycletricity, Simon Flack, Calban Shalam, my friend Aid, Kai, Christy, David Voice, Martin Maracas, Mojo Sabian, Oliver Stevens, Peter Del Monte, Pingu, Rachel Harris, Stuart Chesmar, T-Rex in a top hat, Alex Suter, Distract, Ian Benjamin, Jeff Goff, Mike Baker, Ned Berg, Paul Worrell, Richard Marsden, and then who were the new guys earlier? Where's their names again? I got their names here. Oh, Chris Mack, John Dudman, Raddleman92, Barrington, Sarah Davies. Where's the lock-in screen again? Oh, here we go. Sarah Davies, LU2D Games, Gail Goels, Ricardo G, Martin Gooding, Ian, Phil, Carl, and Phoebe Woby. You absolute dreamboats. Right, but that's it, guys. I'm going to run. Billy Kershaw says, Aid, why did you get a dog? I don't have a dog. What is this thing about dogs all the time? Nick Roberts says, damn, it's the only time I've been able to watch live. Mate, I start at 7:30 and then I rant basically until 8:30. And then we stay on for a little Q&A. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. I will catch up with you all for a paper review probably on Monday. I might be able to squeeze one out over the weekend, but until next time, keep it booch, keep it binfluencer, and I am out this mother fucker.